You go back to 2010, Tennessee's first Elite Eight trip. Tennessee was a 6 seed. And a 6 seed is the lowest seed they have had under Rick Barnes. But 6 seed in 2010, you go into that tournament thinking, well, this hasn't been Bruce Pearl's best team here. And I think you would agree.
Yeah,
you know, they've been blown out by Kentucky in the SEC tournament. Had some fighting at the end of that one. It was an ugly game. That was nobody's favorite Tennessee team until the tournament, and they make the Elite Eight. That changes everything. So who knows? Maybe this is going to be another one of those years where Rick Barnes and Tennessee kind of erases what you've seen so far. They get hot at the right time, the matchups fall their way, and they make a run.
That's right.
Since 2003, this is The Sports Source with your host, John Pennington.
The Sports Source is presented by Junk Be Gone, Pipe Wrench, and the Garza Law Firm.
The Sports Source starts now.
We told you it'd be a great draw. How about that? The Vols all the way to the Elite Eight, and yes, indeed, just like in 2010, kind of a so-so year. You had people up and down. The team was inconsistent. You win 3 in a row in the NCAA tournament, all is forgiven. Now, when you look back, this is going to be a good season for Tennessee. 3 Elite Eights in a row, unprecedented. You know, there are 2 schools in the country that have that kind of stretch going right now, Tennessee and Duke. That's it. That's the kind of waters you're swimming in now. And today we're going to get you ready. First, we're going to talk about how they beat Iowa State. Then we're going to talk all about Michigan. We're going to let you know what they do well, why they're a challenge, and then we'll tell you how you get past that challenge, how Tennessee can get past Michigan and make it to their first Final Four. It's a full show, tons of people here. We also got a little spring practice to get to as well, but a whole lot of basketball coming your way today. Thanks for joining us. In case you're wondering, that's the kind of content you get on the Sports Source Digital Network on our YouTube channel. Go and subscribe as soon as this show is over. First segment of today's show, brought to you by our friends at Junk Be Gone. Spring cleaning time is now. Make it easier on yourself this year with a call to Junk Be Gone. Locally owned, family owned, and a business I've used again and again. Thanks to Junk Be Gone for bringing you the Sports Source. All right, I said the Elite Eight. There you go. The Vols road to the Final Four. It's one hiccup now. It's an awfully big hiccup, but it's right there in front of you. I guess hurdle rather than hiccup, but you get what I'm saying. Illinois got through yesterday, and we told you on the bracket day, if you get a 3 seed that's Virginia, that's good. You don't want Illinois. Well, I think that proved to be true. Illinois into the Final Four already. They'll play the winner of Duke UConn. Arizona got through last night, so if you do get by Michigan, at least you won't face Purdue again. But you would see Tobe Awaka and an Arizona team that is rolling right now. If you get by Michigan, that game coming up at 2:15 on CBS today, of course, we're here to get you ready for it. And let me introduce the we. Right over here, Josh Ward. Right beside him, Tyler Ivins. Right over here, VFL Isaiah Victor is in town. He's always on our show. Even when he's not in town, he's always on our show. And right down there, Buzz Peterson, former Vol head coach, former Carolina basketball player, former executive in the NBA. Thanks to all you gentlemen for being here. Buzz, let me start with you. Tennessee knocked off Iowa State the other day. I know that Joshua Jefferson, their All-American, was out, but hey, them's the breaks. That's the same team without Joshua Jefferson that drilled Kentucky the game before. How did Tennessee take care of business against the Cyclones?
I think there's a lot of factors. I mean, we could all call out a bunch here, but it's just good old smash mouth basketball. Iowa State tries to take you out of everything, put 2 to the ball. Tennessee was able to throw out of that and get some easy baskets. I think they shot over 62% from the 2-point field goals. And then, of course, rebounding, they doubled them up. And that's where they've been so good, 16-8 on offensive board. So it was just, you hear so much about Iowa State this on defense. It was reversed. Tennessee took it right to them. And Tyler, what's his name again?
They call him Mommy, Milan Momcilovic.
Okay. Mommy didn't have Mommy didn't get any looks.
Mommy did not get any looks.
He was smothered and covered all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Isaiah, your thoughts on the Iowa State win, how Tennessee pulled it off?
Yeah, it started off pretty ugly, but that's how I like for it to be because it's a war. So we missed a bunch of little chip shots, but we got a bunch of offensive rebounds. We were really prepared for that pressure, I believe. It looked like Kentucky didn't expect them to be as good as they were on defense, but it looked like we were ready for the traps and ready for the cross-court passes. And then we got all that extra length in there, so you can just throw a high-point pass and those bigs will bring it down. And second half, we got some open looks. made some shots, and we really didn't in the first half that much, but we were able to break it open, and it was beautiful basketball to watch.
Buzz, let me ask you, I'm going to get you guys just 1 second. I'm going to give you a curveball here. How much difference does it make? And we were talking about Tennessee looked ready for it. Kentucky did not. I'm not saying Kentucky doesn't play good defense, but we know what Rick Barnes stresses. How much is that an advantage for Tennessee? You practice against this every single day. How much of that an advantage when you go up against another defensive team? It's like, well,
it helps.
We see it.
Yeah, that helps because every day they're going against it. And I've seen some of Rick's practices. I mean, they're intense. They go at it. So, it's just the TJ at Iowa State preaches about the being physical. So does Rick Barnes preaches about that. But we had more weapons of men inside than they did. And I think over time, we played, 8, 9 guys, and they didn't have much of a bench with Jefferson being out.
Buzz, myself, and you got together for an Iowa State preview, also on the digital network, and we talked about the fact that Tennessee has to take advantage of owning the glass, which they did. Have to be wary, can't let Iowa State turn them over. Well, they turned them over, but it wasn't costly. We also talked about the fact that if there's one team in the tournament who shoots free throws worse than Tennessee, it's Iowa State. That doesn't need to be discounted. The fact that they went to the line a lot and missed a lot, that helped you pull away in that game. Your thoughts on the victory and how they pulled it off?
How many times this year did Tennessee look like they were clawing back into a game and then clank the miss of a front end of a 1-and-1? So Iowa State looked like they wanted to turn Tennessee over, be able to survive at the free throw line, and they could not convert. Andrew Catalog had the stat at the end of the second half. Every trip to the free throw line, they missed at least one free throw. Even when they got into the double bonus, they couldn't complete back-to-back free throws. The physicality, Buzz already touched on it. The Big 12 showed up like a big bad monster and go, you don't know anything about Big 12 physicality. And Tennessee said, cool, see you in 40 minutes. And they beat them up. I want to give a gold star to a guy who back-to-back games has just blown me away. Because I usually bag on Bishop Boswell. Big threes against Virginia. He took Momcilovic and said, we are best friends for 40 minutes. You're going nowhere. Bishop Boswell, stud performance against Momcilovic.
Yeah, Tennessee took control of the game. Tennessee had a size advantage, knew it going in. But during the regular season, we talked a lot. Rick Barnes would talk about, hey, we've got a size advantage. We're not using it enough.
Right.
They used it against Iowa State. We knew without Jefferson, Momcilovic was going to be an even more important player. Tennessee knew it, took him out of the game. He was obviously frustrated by the defense and the physicality. And then the start of the second half, Iowa State could have come out and tried to take control.
Yeah.
Tennessee did.
Yeah.
And from there, they led the rest of the way, never allowed any kind of run by Iowa State.
That's the interesting thing, because even watching that game, it just never felt to me, and you know that Tennessee can blow a lead, because we've all seen the stat, and we'll talk about that stat later. Tennessee's blown leads this year. So you got that in the back of your mind, but as I watched that game, I just never felt like Iowa State was going to make that run. Their threes were not falling all day because you were all in their face, and then they weren't hitting at the free throw line. It's just like, even if you go cold for one of these streaks, I don't think they're going to be able to make up the difference. So that was interesting. Another thing that's interesting, I wanted to see Tennessee shooting. Tournaments so much are getting hot at the right time. Take a look at this, folks. The Vols have played 23 games since January 1st, okay? They're 15-8 since January 1st. 9-7 when they shoot 47.3 or worse, shoot worse than 47.3. 6-1 when they shoot over 47.3. They've done it all 3 games this tournament.
Wow.
They've done it 7 times since January 1st, and it's all 3 games in this tournament. 52% against Miami, 47 against Virginia, 50 against Iowa State, and look at the three-point shooting. In the last 6 games before the NCAA tournament, Tennessee was 29 of 110. In the first 3 games, they're 24 of 61. You've gone from shooting 26% from 3 to 39% from 3. If you're wondering how a team that was inconsistent all of a sudden rolls through the first 3 rounds of this tournament to the Elite 8, that's how. Get hot at the right time. The question is, can you count on that to keep going? Because with Iowa State, they cooled off. Now, it was a good defense from Tennessee that cooled them off, but you either look at that and go, oh, we're hot, so we're rolling, or you look at that and go, oh, gosh, we're due to go cold.
John, I'll say something on the offensive rebounding is such a key, because think about how many threes are made off offensive boards. And so they keep doing that, kicking that thing out. To me, it seems like you hit more threes off an offensive rebound, kicking the thing out, than coming down and running within your offense. So they can continue doing that, kicking that thing out, stay hot.
Well, another part there is we just said it. They've done what Rick Barnes has wanted them to do, and that's get it inside. The more they didn't look good early in that game, they were missing all those bunnies.
Right.
But for the most part, the more shots you take inside, the higher that shooting percentage goes up.
Yeah, not all shots have the same percentage of going in. The better the look, if you're forcing outside shots that are contested, less likely to go in, right? You get a good pass when you're open, you create extra opportunities for yourself, more likely to knock them
Pretty
down.
satisfying. We used to sit on the set all the time going, how many point blank carry shots can you miss? Akpara, Estrella, those balls are finding the bottom of the basket. It's all starting to come together. We'll see how if it continues in Chicago against Michigan.
Big shout out to Kerry, by the way. You see him missing a lot of chip shots during the year. I think the one play he gets to steal, he comes down and dunks it.
This is his best play of the year.
Yeah,
Vic, we talked about it after
right
the
time.
Kentucky game, the frustration levels, and here it is now.
Yep.
All right. When we come back, enough about Iowa State. Let's look to the future. As a matter of fact, let's look in the now. We're going to look to the future, but in this next segment, I want to talk about the now. You're going to be playing for the third straight year on the next to last weekend of the year. I grew up a Tennessee fan. That doesn't happen. Let's stop and smell the roses. Come on back next. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by A.G. Hines Company. If you're starting a home improvement project, a do-it-yourself project, make your first move the right move. Visit A.G. Hines Company for your tools and your building materials, aghines.com. All right, let's take a look at the next members of our panel. Ryan Callahan right here. Ryan Callahan right here. Chuck Cavaliers right here, and Bob Hodge right over there. Thank you, gentlemen, for all being here. It's very good of you. Now let's take a look at some graphics just talking about this. Maybe it's us. You know, Tennessee's history in the Elite Eight, we know it, but Bruce Pearl made an Elite Eight here, 0-1, goes to Auburn. He makes the Final Four twice at Auburn, just didn't do it here. Rick Barnes, well, 0-2 here. He made the Final Four at Texas. Maybe it's just a Tennessee thing, unfortunately, because both these guys have reached a Final Four. Let's go to the next one. Is today the day? You see in 2010, which meant, actually that's the would that have been 2010 or 2011? Is that the 2010-2011 season? Or 209-210?
No, it was I think it was the 09-10 season.
Okay. Yeah. And my mind's, this is 16 years ago today. Michigan State beat them by a point at the buzzer. Purdue beat them with Zach Edey in that Dalton Connect showdown a couple of years ago. Last year, the one that I thought Tennessee had the best shot at, you get hammered by Houston. Today you got Michigan, so is today the day you break through? And then the last thing right here, look at this. Just enjoy the success. 5 straight seasons of 25-plus wins. That had never happened at this school before. 5 straight seasons with 20 or more regular season wins. That had never happened here. 4 straight Sweet 16s, 3 straight Elite Eights. Tennessee is tops in the SEC in the NCAA Tournament wins post-COVID. Nobody else in the SEC is with you. Bob, Chuck, you guys are my age, maybe a little older. This is heady stuff. This is not what we're used to in Knoxville.
It's incredible, and you let off exactly right. People should sit back and go, wow. And I had a friend, told you about the conversation, got mad during the Virginia game because they didn't win by enough. And I told him, I said, look, come August, you're going to sit here and remember this as a Sweet 16 team, and any turnovers or that all goes away. And I think that'll be the way it should be with this team, regardless of what happens today. This is great. And who expected it?
Right.
I mean, 2 weeks ago, I wasn't sitting around going, well, I mean, this looks like a team that is set up possibly for your first Final Four. Nobody expected it. So, yes, enjoy this ride.
Well, less than 7.5% of the brackets had Tennessee going to the Elite Eight. And you're the last SEC team standing. Who had that on your bingo card?
Right.
And I saw one other stat, John. Since the NCAA expanded to 64 teams, you had never had a team beat back-to-back 30-win teams. Tennessee has done that. Guess what? Now you got a third one. 31 team.
Yeah.
And it gets tougher.
Gentlemen, Ryan, I'll let you start.
I know people will focus on the end result no matter what happens, but I hope win or lose today, everyone remembers this as a pretty remarkable season and just appreciates what this run is, because obviously so many people are going to think we're just never going to get past the Elite Eight if they lose today. 4, like you point out there, 4 losses in 16 years in the Elite Eight, but nobody does this. Florida, a 1 seed, looks like they're set up for a Final Four run. They're out in the second round. It's just so hard to do this, especially year after year.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, there are going to be people who say, well, you underachieved in the regular season. Well, I don't care.
No,
This is a
exactly.
tournament
It's a tournament sport.
I mean, I don't know why you play 40 games in the regular season personally. I think it ought to be a 10-game season.
I mean, once again,
get to
this
the
is the
tournament.
reason to put the bullet in the SEC tournament.
Oh, yeah, it's
Who
meaningless.
cares?
But Rick Barnes, a guy who, second-round Rick, remember that? Remember second-round Rick?
Regular season.
Phone's
Yeah.
still ringing.
Well, he
Yeah.
seems like he knows how to get a team ready for March now, doesn't it? I mean, the runs he's gone on with this team the last 4 years, again, you say, well, we'll never get past Elite Eight. And you're right, there will be people who think of it that way. Well, you used to be a program that never even dreamed of reaching an Elite Eight.
Yep.
So to be there 3 years in a row is really amazing. And when you put it in perspective compared to the other programs out there, Danny White said yesterday or the day before he's turned it into a blue blood program. Yeah. You got to win a national championship, I think, or reach a Final Four before you're fully, put your feet in the cement there. But he's got you as close as you've ever been. I think it's a blue blood. When you 3 Elite Eights in a row, hard to beat that.
All right, I'm gonna go a little personal here. Growing up in this area, I've always been a college basketball fan. I waited for Victor's autograph in the tunnel. I went to Buzz's basketball camp. I went to Kevin O'Neal's basketball camp. I'm texting.
A lot more cussing at that one than Buzz.
Yeah. I'm texting with 3 of my friends in a group chat last night, and one of them just started the text message going, "Is this really about to happen? Are we really playing for an Elite Eight again after we thought, Tennessee fans, after the Purdue Zach Edey and after Houston, there's no chance you're getting back to the Elite Eight, and it's here again." And I sat back last night in my chair and just sat in silence and went, this is really happening. Rick Barnes is taking Tennessee, something I never thought I would see, to the doorstep of the Final Four for the 3rd consecutive weekend. This man, and I'll say it again, is so underappreciated for the job that he does here, and Tennessee fans will not recognize how great of a job and what we're living in right now until after Rick Barnes is gone. This is remarkable, and Tennessee fans should be soaking this all in.
There were rumors last week, you alerted me to it. Somebody went on a talk show and talked about the fact that, well, I'm hearing you could be gone next year. It's 1 more year. If I'm Danny White, I've given you a lifetime contract.
Remember when
what's
some
it gonna
people
take to
even
keep you
poo-pooed
around?
the lifetime contracts?
No, you keep this guy as long as you can keep him.
Yeah.
I mean, what he's done here is remarkable. And when you look at Tennessee history, that's the thing. If you have perspective on this that goes back, well, I remember Isaiah over there. I remember the tail end of Ernie and Bernie. If you've got that kind of perspective, this is really stunning to be playing in these types of games. We had the conversation the other day, and I thought you summed it up perfectly. You said, traditionally in your head, Tennessee's a bubble team.
Yes.
Do they get in or do they not?
You're
You're hoping to get in.
You're sitting there going, okay, if they can win this one, this one, this one, and this one, they might be able to get into the tournament. And now just to sit back and go, okay, they're in the tournament. And I also wonder if this team is a reflection of one other thing. Before the season, people were talking about how this was a completely almost brand new group of players. How are they going to come together when you lost so much leadership off the previous team?
Yes, yeah.
Maybe that's the reason they're peaking now. This is how long it took them to come together. You had to get through December and January and February. And so maybe this is the team that they could have been if they had been together previously.
Real quick, 11 new players.
Yeah.
And look at the struggles Nate Ament had getting to where he was, and then he gets hurt. So look at what all Rick Barnes has had to deal with just to get to this point.
Yeah, I mean, you went through the inconsistencies, but look where you came out on the other side.
Right.
And that's the whole goal. You know, if you had been, for all these people like, well, we blew it in the regular season. Well, if you'd been 35-0 and then losing the first round of the tournament, if you're Virginia a couple of years ago and you lose to
There you go.
UMBC, I think most people would give me the crummy regular season and the March tournament run. It's remarkable. Your co-host Will West has said many times when they were struggling, and I think he's right. Okay, how many of these people that chipped in big money this year are going to do it next year when you look at the results? Right. Well, I hope they're looking at these results because I want to see them back next year. So get out your wallets, keep throwing the money. Give Barnes more and more money to play with. Maybe he'll break through for you. Elite Eight again. I just wanted to take a segment and talk about how remarkable that is. When we come back. All right, let's lay out the challenge that is Michigan. And oh boy, is it a challenge. You keep seeing every week, you get it every game in this tournament, you see a team that's better than the last one. They're tough, but later on we'll tell you how you beat them. We got all that coming back on the Sports Source. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Uncle Jim's River Cove Campground. Folks, if you recently bought a camper, listen to this. If you recently bought a camper, so you're new to camping, show proof of purchase, you'll get a voucher for a free night stay at the River Cove Campground. If you're new to camping, check out the newest, bestest spot to camp in the Smokies, rivercovecampground.com to learn more and to get your free night stay. All right, we got a poll question for you today. Let's go ahead and put that thing in there. You've already been online. A lot of you have been online. How will today's game play out? Tennessee big, Tennessee close, clearly the big leader right now. Michigan close, nobody's saying that. Michigan big. But here in Knoxville, Tennessee, 84% go for the Vols right now. 16% say Michigan. So go ahead, play with us. Get your smartphone out, point it at the QR code there beneath the Hearthside Bank logo. Let us know what you think about today's game, what the outcome will be. I want to talk about Michigan in this segment. We'll scare you now, and then we'll give you a remedy later. Let's talk about what Michigan does and take a look at this. Here's a comparison of the two schools. Overall record, Tennessee 25-11. As Chuck mentioned, Michigan already over 30 wins. They're at 34-3 on the year. You see their rankings. Number 1 in Kim Pomeroy's system, number 2 in the NCAA net rankings, number 3 according to CBB Analytics. Tennessee 20th, 11th, and 20th. Pomeroy keeps adding team. The further you go in the tournament, the more you rise in Pomeroy. The regular season versus quad 1 teams. So versus quad 1 opponents, Tennessee was 6-10 in the regular season. Michigan was 17-3. In terms of common opponents, you had Alabama, Auburn, Illinois, and Rutgers. Michigan went 4-0 against those teams. Tennessee went 4-2, played them more often. Your average score versus your common opponents, 74-68, a 6-point win for the Vols. For Michigan, a 24-point win against those opponents. And now let's take a look at their lineup here, their roster. They have a bunch of big guys who rotate in there. They've got pretty good guards outside. They're good everywhere. But I'll let you guys tell me, whoever wants to start it here, thoughts on this team.
Go with the bottom half of the starters and then bring in Morez Johnson Jr. So you're going to go Lindenborg, Mara, and Johnson. Tennessee, in my opinion, has not faced off against any team, Miami, Iowa State, or Virginia, that has the size that can match them inside. Michigan has the size that can match him on the inside. Lindenborg was a transfer from Andy Kennedy's program at UAB. There's a reason why he's a first-team All-American. That guy will absolutely light the scoreboard on fire. And just when you thought Tennessee was done with big men in the history of scaring them in the Elite Eight, Andy Mara today against Felix Okpara is going to be a 15-round heavyweight fight. Morez Johnson against Jalen Carey, that's the undercard, and it's going to be a UFC fight later today.
Tennessee keeps running into teams, those Big Ten teams with 7'8" guys.
They're just monsters.
Josh, thoughts on this Michigan team? What scares you about them?
Yeah, the size is where you start out. If we talked about the size advantage against Iowa State, that does not factor into the preview of today's game in any way. So Tennessee will obviously attempt to bring the physicality against that, but it's a different kind of challenge. And then what they've done to opponents, when you go back to that screen of stats, they've blown people out. They blew out non-conference tournament teams before conference play began. They went through a very difficult Big Ten schedule. They've destroyed teams through a lot of the season.
And they have not. Their 3 losses were all close losses. They didn't get blown out a single time all year. So they didn't have a night where they did a morning when they didn't wake up right. Yeah. They just didn't have a nightmare scenario at any point.
Since they lost the Big Ten tournament championship game to Purdue, they have put up 90-plus points in all 3 of their tournament games, even against high-scoring teams like St. Louis and who they've gone across.
Yeah. Isaiah, your thoughts on this team?
They're big, of course. We discussed that. Lindenborg, I mean, he can do a little bit of everything. Especially if they're going to start him at the 4, that's a matchup problem. Who do you start on? Yeah. That's a question. I wanted to see Nate Amin on him myself. I think he can guard him. Okpara and Estrella, it's going to be a tough matchup for either one of those guys. But you're going to need help anyway. And then they suck you in, and they pass it out to those guards, and they can all shoot it. Mainly probably because of the looks that they get. Yeah. I saw a lot of open looks in the other game. You see Lindenborg going downhill off the high screen, and then he's just kicking it out to these guards, and you can't really leave them. So that makes the paint open. So somebody's going to have to guard Lindenborg one-on-one, and we're going to have to guard the bigs one-on-one, and I think that's how we take care of them.
Buzz, what do you think?
This is a well-balanced, efficient offensive team. I mean, they've got it all on offense. They can go inside, they can go outside. So they're like I said, very, very well balanced. They do that stat I like so much. They've shot 619 free throws, right? Or they've made 619. Their opponents only attempted 612. So that's a stat I like a lot. Where that means they're getting it inside and they're getting very, very good efficient shots. They did a great job in the portal bringing some of these guys in. So Dustin May he's a proven coach. He's done a good job. So this is a very good basketball team. The one thing about both these teams I like so much, they rebound the ball and they get loose balls. You think about how these twos are very scrappy and they end up those loose balls. Those 50-50 balls are important.
Yeah, the foul issue. Tennessee's got to be careful. They've got a lot of fouls to use, but Iowa State, you were happy with them going to the line because you knew, hey, we'll live with them missing those shots.
Yeah.
Michigan shoots a lot better at the free throw line. They're efficient everywhere. They're good from 2-point. They can hit outside shots, and they can hit shots at the free throw line.
Tennessee gets a lot of points at the free throw line. Tennessee is one of those teams that has had an advantage all year over their opponents. They get to the line more than their opponent does. They don't get to the line more than Michigan does.
You brought up the stat less than 10 minutes ago how well Tennessee's been shooting both in Philadelphia and Chicago. Guess who has the number 1 ranked defense in all of college basketball?
39%, I believe.
Yeah.
They are pretty darn good. If you're looking for a storyline, last time Tennessee didn't make it to the Elite Eight, they fell short to a team called Florida Atlantic at Madison Square Garden in the Sweet 16. Who was their head basketball coach? Dusty May.
Yeah, so we'll get to the Michigan history of Tennessee next, but keep that in mind when we're talking about it. There's Michigan history, and then there's an added flavor from Dusty May as well. Tennessee owes this bunch today. They owe them some. So there's why Michigan's going to be tough. A little bit later, we'll show you how Tennessee wins anyway. But next, I want to talk to Isaiah and Buzz. Look, everybody knows the Final Four thing is hanging over there. It's hanging over their heads. If you're a player, how do you keep from pressing? If you're Rick Barnes, what percentage of your brain is on that? Because you know it is. He'll tell you it's not. It's got to be. Let's discuss that. Come on back. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Southeast Termite and Pest Control. Pest Control to keep your home and family safe for more than half a century. Spring, well, it's here, folks. That means ants, carpenter bees, mosquitoes. You've already seen them. Get rid of them. Stop seeing them. Call the folks I call, the people who take care of my home. That is Southeast Termite and Pest Control. Find them at southeasttermite.com. All right, I mentioned this as we went to break. Take a look. Tennessee's NCAA history with Michigan. 2011, Bruce Pearl's final game at Tennessee was against Michigan, a 30-point blowout over in Charlotte, I believe. In 2014, in the Sweet 16, Conzo Martin's final game at Tennessee was against Michigan, losing that Sweet 16 round by 2 points. And then in 2022, they got a piece of Rick Barnes as well. Beat him in the second round in 2022. And then, as we said, as Tyler pointed out, Dusty May, he beat you when he was at FAU in 2023. So you owe these guys a little bit of something. Isaiah, let me start with you. Every year, last 2 years, the guys have bawled their eyes out on the podium after the game, talked about the fact we wanted this for Coach Barnes.
Yeah.
They know the Final Four thing out there. They've heard it. They know that everybody talks about it all year long, Final Four, you can't get there. If you're a player, how do you set that aside and not press too much? How do you keep that compartmentalized?
Well, what you got to do is just get technical. Because to get to the Final Four, you got to beat Michigan, right? So you just take a look at Michigan. You prepare for them. They're going to give you film. They're going to tell you who you're guarding. They're going to show you their sets. So just lock into that. If you want to do something, you get anxious, get some extra shots in. That always helps. But at the end of the day, the magnitude of the game is something that you should not focus on. So it's just another game in the sense of the basketball X's and O's, right? Now, it is in the Elite Eight. It could be on the moon. It could be the world. It could be anything. But when you're inside the lines, you try to just take your brain and just get inside the lines and stay there if you can.
Easier once the game gets going, I would think.
Absolutely. Once the jump ball starts, everything's out. So
when you were playing at Tennessee, if you're going into a game like this, you're going into a big matchup, would you prefer to be the favorite, playing somebody that is somebody else who everybody thinks you're going to beat? Or would you rather be the underdog going against somebody that everybody thinks is going to beat you? Or does it matter?
I'd say the underdog, just because it shouldn't matter either way, but I'd be not telling the truth if I said when you're the underdog, if it doesn't give you a little bit more of a chip on your shoulder. So, and then when you use that negative energy, if you can turn it into a positive, then there you go.
Okay. Buzz, let me ask you, Rick Barnes knows the story. They called him second round Rick. He's dispatched that one. They called him rocking chair Rick, rest home Rick, all this stuff. He's coming here just to collect a check, yada, yada. It's nonsense. However, the Final Four thing is hanging out there. And it's not just him, as I pointed out. He's been to one at Texas. Bruce Pearl been to 2 at Auburn. Just can't, those guys got you to Elite Eight here and they couldn't get through here. He knows Tennessee is dying for a Final Four. How much, is it 2%? 80%? Where is that in terms of Rick Barnes' brain right now in terms of wanting to get that first one for Tennessee?
Well, I'm sure it's in the back of his mind. He's thinking about it a little bit, but he's a tough-minded person. I mean, you go back to the way he played when I was looking, watching Lenore Ryan. That's the way his teams play now. And so it's always going to stay in the back of your mind. I haven't been there yet here in Tennessee, but he'll tune that out. He's been around the block enough. That's not going to affect him. He'll have his team prepared. That's what's important. We talk about the players. Everybody's got to touch the ball a couple of times, get a shot up, and then things settle down.
In terms of getting ready for a game like this, there's got to be nerves. I mean, every one of these games gets bigger nerves the farther you go. How do you get a team to calm down for big games?
I don't think you harp on. This is the Final Four. We're going. I think you play that just like a normal regular season game. They're human nature. The players know. They know it. So you don't need to talk about it. Just prepare just like you've been all season long. The routine should be the same. I'm sure Rick's doing the same thing.
He said yesterday, and Justin Gainey is assistant coach the last 4 or 5 years here. He's already spoken with the folks at his alma mater, NC State, about their opening. And Rick Barnes said yesterday they should be begging him to come over there. I'm sure he wants him to get a job. Everybody wants that. But at the same time, is that a distraction for Gainey right now?
That's different.
Okay.
Justin's never been a head coach. So the excitement to go back to our alma mater is different. And so I know in his mind, he's like, golly, we got to do well today. This makes it even better that they're hiring an assistant for a team that's going to the Final Four.
Yeah.
So for Justin, I know there's a lot of excitement going on inside. He would love to go back to Raleigh as the coach.
All right, very good. You want to give us any insight on the North Carolina job? Break
No.
that. Very good. When we come back, let's talk about spring practice. We got 2 segments on spring practice football. Then we're going to come back, and the last part of this show is going to be how Tennessee can beat Michigan, and then also how other teams have beaten Michigan, how Tennessee can copy it, and then also our game predictions. All that coming up on the Sports Source. Come on back for a little football. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Madisonville Marine. Folks, if you are in the market for a boat, be smart. Go where everyone else goes. That's Madisonville Marine. People have been going there since 1976. That is 50 years. Huge selection of every make and model you can imagine. Madisonville Marine, there is no better place to buy a boat. All right, I want to remind folks of the poll. Let's put that up there and see where that's going. Tennessee, in a close win, is still your leader. 40-something% there. Tennessee big, very small. Michigan close, Michigan big. So right now it's between Tennessee close and Michigan big. So go ahead, keep firing away at the QR code there. Use your smartphone. Vote for us. We appreciate that. I always like knowing what the fan base is thinking. Okay, back with Josh, with Bob, with Chuck, with Ryan Callahan right here. Let's talk about spring football. I'm just going to get out of the way and let you guys go. I just want to know offense. We'll talk defense next. Offense. What are you hearing that you're liking? Let's keep it on a positive. I'm Mr. Positive today.
Yeah.
What are you hearing that you're liking, Ryan Callahan?
I'd start with the offensive line. The fact that coming out of the first scrimmage on Thursday, you're hearing Tennessee's offensive line looked pretty good. Now you got 4 returning starters there. David Sanders back for a second year. He wasn't healthy part of last year, so you expect some growth there. But overall, it sounds like that group had a good day and has looked good overall so far. So I don't know that you expect that group to just be mauling everyone they face, but that's a big deal. I think you've got to protect the quarterback well. You've got to run the ball well with the young quarterback. So having those guys getting off to a good start, that's where I would start.
Oh boy, I would agree with that. I mean, quarterback clearly everybody's focused on that, but as you say, you got to protect the quarterback in terms of his passing game, but you also need a run game to help protect him as well. So yeah, if the offensive line is your big takeaway, that's a positive. Gentlemen, you hear anything else you like? Or you can always chime in and ask more questions about the offensive line. Give me your take on the offensive line.
I'm hearing good things about Tristan Keys, and that he has added, everybody talks about Georgia McIntyre added weight. Tristan Keys has added like 12 pounds. That's a 5-star receiver. If you can get him on the field, get him production, that sounds good as an early start to me.
No, I think it sounds good. I'm always worried about them actually playing the guy.
Yeah. Well, since Ryan's over there, I'm, like you said, going to have to run the ball this year. Offensive line's going to help that. What is Tennessee's depth at running back so far? Since I am not over there, do they have more bodies than just the obvious?
Well, depth is not just they don't have an impressive amount of depth there, but I think the top three you feel pretty good about, and that's the other position I was going to point to. So I think DeJuan Morris and Javen Gordon, the Tulane transfer, are off to a pretty good start. It sounds like there's some pretty healthy competition among those guys. Obviously, it's Deshaun Bishop's backfield. He didn't get a lot of work in the scrimmage. He's up about 10 pounds already this offseason, looks really good, always has put in a lot of work off the field. So I think those top three you feel really good about. Beyond those guys, really just Justin Baker right now, and you've got a signee, Will Rejecki, on the way that they added late. So not a lot of scholarship guys there, but those top three, as long as everyone stays mostly healthy, I think they feel pretty good about so far.
I think the offensive line and Sanders especially being a positive is a big positive, potentially. A couple weeks ago, John, when we were talking about key people for the offseason, Sanders came up, I think, several times for several reasons. Left tackle, ton of talent, you've invested in him. Tennessee needs David Sanders Jr. to be a really good player, to become somebody that could compete for an all-conference spot. That's what they need him to be. So the fact that he's had a positive offseason and start to spring is really good.
Well, they made the choice. It's like, okay, we could either pay Lance Hurd this big chunk he's asking for, or we could just go to David Sanders, and they went to David Sanders. So that's he better live up to it.
Now,
at this point.
We haven't touched on the quarterbacks, obviously.
Yeah.
I think we got to touch on the fact those guys did not have the best scrimmage in their first scrimmage. That's not a shock, though. We hear almost every spring and every fall that the
Hang on.
that the
Let's
first.
throw the challenge flag.
Yeah.
You can't say anything bad about the quarterback. I said we're being positive today.
Well, what I was going to say was, on the positive side, you still are hearing that there are flashes of those guys' talent showing up, that Faison Brandon's making some good throws. He had a deep ball that was dropped in the scrimmage. Now, the drop, you could say, a concern. It was not a starter. That's what I got about that one. So, but yeah, having some drops, having some missed throws, not ideal, but at the same time, you want to hear some good things about the quarterback. We are hearing that George McIntyre looks the part. He's been a little bit under the weather last week, and I think that maybe affected his scrimmage performance a little bit. But Faison Brandon, even with some ups and downs, looking good for the most part, and still showing people why he was a 5-star. I think it's good to hear those guys' talent is showing up.
Yeah, I would say Faison's probably making it a real competition. That we've had the question, okay, is it going to be really a competition, or do you say, hey, you're going to get an opportunity? Part of it might be because George hasn't distanced himself.
There you go.
But Faison has the physical ability to be a really good player. He's ranked that way for a reason. So it looks like a real competition through the first 2
I like
weeks.
the approach of the coaches saying, be decisive, not risky. Knowing what you're supposed to do, but not committing early. Faison Brandon, I heard they're really trying to improve his footwork. Apparently that was more of a question for a 5-star or whatever.
Well, it also
than I
makes
heard
sense for a
coming in.
freshman.
Yeah.
That's the guy you'd have to do. You've had McIntyre in the system. You should have all his footwork issues worked out. So that would make sense that you're having to deal with Brandon a little bit. Bob, your thoughts?
So the answer to the question of, okay, they're not going to name a starter in the spring, then that's because maybe they don't have a starter coming out of the spring, instead of just it's the coach speak of no, we're not going to do this. So I thought it would be a real competition, but I thought McIntyre would win kind of going away. So he's not winning going away.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty close race so far. I mean, McIntyre's been okay at times, and I think Brandon's been okay at times, but has had maybe a few more of those moments where you go, oh, wow, that's pretty interesting. So, you've got to. The scrimmages will be more instructive. I think the second scrimmage will tell us a lot. The offense usually bounces back. We'll see if that's the case in this one. But if he continues to show these flashes, that's going to make it more and more of a discussion. But I think you still have to be concerned about the fact that he's a freshman, that he's not done it in game competition, and that making decisions on the field is ultimately what makes a good quarterback.
Well, that's what I was going to say. We don't know that about either of these guys.
Yeah.
There's a problem here. I mean, we all know there have been really good quarterbacks at Tennessee who were not good in practice.
Yeah.
And there have been quarterbacks at Tennessee who were great in practice, and then you put them on the field and they Peterman.
And much like Hendon
Or the
Hooker,
Milton.
Faison Brandon's not a guy that's going to run it 20 times a game, but he's a pretty good runner too. So you're not going to see that element much until you give him a chance to play in a game.
Yeah, so I went into this thinking that all things being equal, it's going to be McIntyre just because he's got the experience. Maybe not. Maybe he's playing him. It's 1 weekend.
Yeah.
But I'm a little surprised that it's truly even at this point, if that's where it is. Okay, when we come back, let's flip it and catch you up on the Vols defense this spring. Then we'll lay out the Vols' path to victory against Michigan. Come on back. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Games and Things. Folks, it is their spring clearance sale going on right now through tomorrow, March 30th. 10 to 50% off everything in the store. That includes custom orders. Sale ends tomorrow. I can't underline this and underscore it enough. Sail-ins tomorrow. Games and things. Spring clearance, 10 to 50% off. There, that should do it. All right, let's reveal the poll results and see what your final verdict was. Tennessee wins in a close one. So what did we wind up with? 69%? Is that right? 69% of Vols have the Vols winning? Is that 42 and 21?
58.
I can't see it. Oh, it is just 11. I was thinking it was 21. Yeah. So 58. Ooh, this did get close. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking that was a 21. That's 11. My eye doctor's watching. I'll be seeing you this week. Anyway, thank you for playing along. Most of you think Tennessee's going to win a close one. And then the next one up is Michigan big. And then the other two are kind of right there together, 12 and 11%. All right, appreciate you playing along with us. Gentlemen, let's talk one last segment of football. We'll start again with Ryan. What are you hearing on the defensive side of the ball that you're liking?
Well, I think you have to be impressed to start with the fact that the defense seems to be coming along pretty well and installing the system. And I was told better than expected. And they think it's partly the result of the fact they brought in some Penn State transfers at each level of the defense, and that Jim Knowles brought some coaches with him that he's worked with in the past. And that's 8 practices in now. Sounds like those guys, no one's saying they've mastered it, that they've figured it all out, but having some veterans from the transfer portal, especially in the secondary where things are a little more complicated, seems to have made a difference. And at linebacker, you've obviously got a lot of experience back. Even with Arion Carter out, that group has looked good. So I think the fact that the defense is coming along well and kind of won the first scrimmage, pretty much controlled that one, that's a good sign considering there were so many questions on that side of the ball.
Yeah, the fact that they had to upgrade, I would say, the overall athleticism and the depth and competition at safety especially, they did that. And we'll see what that means in terms of results, but they just had to get better there. And personnel-wise, they have improved. And I'm sure that players and coaches knowing what Jim Knowles wants to run is a factor in where things are. That was a must, and it was a problem, I think, for Knowles at Penn State, that he didn't have that kind of connection from Ohio State to Penn State. He stressed that he needed it in Knoxville, and he has it.
We talked about it when they did it. I always think it's crazy. If you're going to bring in a new coordinator, I'm sorry, you can't just hand him the old staff. You have to let him bring at least a couple of assistants with him. So I think if you're going to make that move, Tennessee did it the right way this offseason.
And if I was going to point to a specific position that's maybe been the most impressive so far, it might be the safeties. Those guys made some plays during the scrimmage. Sounds like they've really upgraded the talent level there with guys like T.J. Metcalf and DeJuan Lane.
And also, boy, it seems like you got a bunch of good linebackers, right? I think that might dictate some about what time, because we know that Jim Knowles likes to do cover 3, right? That's one thing you hear. With those linebackers, I think you're going to have some versatility, and heard some real good things about Ty Redmond. I think he is standing out for all he went through last year as a freshman in the growing pains as one of the most improved players in the SEC.
In terms of linebackers, of course, Arion Carter not even out there yet. So
Right.
Right.
All right.
Well, and that's what I was going to talk about the linebackers too, because last year, the defensive backs caught almost all the heat for that defense being bad, or they caught most of the heat anyway. And even though your leading tackle on the team was a linebacker, and it was great that he was leaving, then he came back, I think they need as much improvement on the field out of those guys going forward as they do out of their defensive backs. Because last year, a whole lot of what I thought that Tennessee got gouged in the running game, and it's like, okay, your linebackers either are a step slow or they've missed an assignment or something is happening. So to your point, Chuck, you read some things about how deep they are at linebacker, and I think that's just as important as getting the DBs back up.
And would you say one of the down things, Ryan, would it be Davian Hobbs again?
And that's what I was going to ask. I was going to talking about deep at linebacker.
Yeah.
Are you deep enough along the defensive line?
Yeah.
Especially with Hobbs out.
I think that's a concern. I should point out that one highlight on the defensive line, it sounds like Xavier Gilliam has looked really good. The Penn State transfer off to a very good start. Was told he looks like a grown man so far. So I think he's off to an impressive start. It makes you think they can at least have a good top 8 on the defensive line. The question is, do you have 12? And Rodney Garner usually likes to rotate 12 there. So do they have enough quality bodies to have a good rotation there? I'm also a little bit concerned about the pass rush a little bit, just off the edge.
Yeah.
Chaz Coleman, talented guy, still showing he's figuring it out. So I think he's the guy that's still second year in college. He's coming along, and I would say not a finished product. And people have heard some high expectations for him based on the hype he got out of the transfer portal. I would maybe caution those just a little bit that he's still got to figure some things out.
Josh?
Yeah, it sounds like still potential. If you say top 8 on the defensive line, that's still high when you take a couple guys that come in as a transfer, and then that sophomore class, a lot of potential. I've said I think Hobbs is so important, his availability, and should be back before fall camp. But again, dealing with an injury, doesn't get a full offseason. Once again, that's a disappointment.
You can't spend money everywhere, but should they have spent more money there at defensive tackle?
I would have gotten one more. I thought they needed 2 at that position with all the guys they lost from last season. They lost, 7 of their top 10 guys on the defensive line. To not have something more there, you're really counting on Isaiah Campbell and Ethan Utley to be pretty good this year. If those guys can't be good as second-year players, that's a real concern for that group.
And we saw early last season, Tennessee dealt with injury on the interior when Jackson Boyd went down early. That was a factor for Tennessee's defense. That's a fear going into this season too.
I was setting you up because I heard you talking this week in your radio show. I'm an
Thanks
assist
for listening.
man. I'm an assist man. Josh and Swain, noon to 3.
That's right.
Noon to 3. I'm a sports animal. I'm sorry, I'm bad with clocks and vision and talking. Thanks to all these guys. Ryan, thanks for coming in today.
Absolutely.
You can go and start your preparations for the basketball early. We've got more on Michigan. The next 30 minutes are all about getting you ready for this game. We talked to you about why Michigan is so tough, what's scary about them. We're also going to show you a comparison of them and Tennessee in a number of areas. But next, they lost 3 games this year. What do those 3 games have in common, and how can Tennessee beat the Wolverines? Come on back. And welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Safety Systems. Whether it's your home, your place of business, protect your property, protect the people, with a simple call to VFL JJ Surlis and his team at Safety Systems. They have the best deals and the best security systems in all of East Tennessee. That's why I use Safety Systems. SafetySystems.com to learn more. All right, let's take a look at how Michigan lost. Just some data. They lost 3 games you see up there at the top. In January, they lost by 3 at home to Wisconsin. In February, they lost by 5 in a neutral site, Washington, D.C., to Duke. March 15th, they lost the Big Ten championship game in Chicago to Purdue. In those, for the season, let's do it this way. Point number 1, they shot 36.9% from 3 on the season. In their 3 losses, that dropped to 28.4. Doesn't seem huge, but it's enough of a hiccup. You drop from 36 to under 29. That's a pretty big drop. Next, foes shot 38.6% against them during the season. In those 3 losses, their opponents shot 49%. So, be hot. Yes. This one ties into that. They allowed 11.6 assists per game all season. In those 3 losses, they allowed 18 assists a game. So, obviously, you're hitting shots, you're getting assists. Next, this is interesting for Tennessee. They out-rebounded their opponents 40-31 on the season. In the 3 losses, they got out-rebounded 33-31. So, Tennessee can own the glass. Maybe they can get in there, and that's an edge. Foes, here's one that worries you, though, if you're a Tennessee fan. Yep. All 3 of the teams that beat Michigan had 11 turnovers or fewer in those games. You're going to have to take care of the basketball if you want to follow this blueprint. And then let's take a look at some individuals. You got the game still up there at the top. Trey McKinney, on the season, he averaged about 10 points and shot 46% from the field. In their losses, he was 5 of 22. All right, so these are all 3 guards. That's what you got here. Elliot Cadeau, 37% from 3 on the season. In their losses, 26%. Went 4 of 15 from 3. Roddy Gale, off the bench, only 7 points, 46% free throw field goal shooter. All that dropped. Add that all up, those 3 guards. If you're sitting there thinking you're going to have to handle their big guys, even in the losses, nobody handled their big guys. Mm-hmm. Their guards, however, somebody got into them and stopped their shooting. Tennessee, all right, that's part of a path you could follow up. I watched you do it to Momcilovic against Iowa State.
Nicely done.
Tyler, I'll let you start. Thoughts, pathway for Tennessee. How do they beat Michigan?
I'll go back to what we talked about an hour ago, maybe 50 minutes ago. Josh Ward was sitting here to the right, and he said, in a game where you have no problem sending Iowa State to the line, you have to have a chess match on when you're going to use your fouls and how physical you want to be with their guard play. Tennessee, in my opinion, they can play physical with their backcourt, but a lot of it has to do of when are you going to start getting into the bonuses, the 6, 7, 8s. Look, Tennessee, we touched at the top. There was moments where we thought, if Iowa State's hitting their free throws, this is a closer game. That is a landmine waiting to happen. Every step you take to try to get to the finish line, you're going to end up losing an appendage if you allow it, but there's a point into this. Nobody can stop the bigs. You brought it up. If you're Tennessee basketball, I hate to say you have to play a darn near perfect game. Yeah. Taking care of the basketball, Jacoby Gillespie and others have got to continue their hot shooting, and their assists to shot ratio has to be a star at the end of the game. If you want to play for your first ever Final Four, in my opinion, you have to be near flawless today against Michigan.
What's it going to take to beat them?
Yeah, I agree with him. You got to play your best game for sure, probably your best game ever if you're trying to go where you've never been. So you got to do what you've never done to do so. Those guards, they can't shoot that well. They shoot really well on the kickouts and all. They're not just create or wop shoot. They pass the ball really well and make shots that way. So just stick to them. But in order to be able to stick to them, somebody's going to have to be able to guard, again, I think Lindenborg. Because he's such a creator. He's big. He can shoot from out there. They run him in the high pick and roll, and they just sit out there and wait for him to pass a lot of times. And he's really good at that. So whoever has the task of guarding him, I think that's where it starts.
Half-court defense is going to be important here because Lindenborg likes to facilitate, and he likes to draw two players, and they are very good at finding the extra man and where he's at. That ball gets off fast, too. Where Tennessee has to be careful, you asked earlier, who's going to end up being the person who's going to be going with Lindenborg when they get across the timeline? I think it needs to be Nate.
Yes.
But they need to make sure Akpara, Boswell, Gillespie, and everybody who's on the floor knows what their assignment is. If they get lost in traffic off ball screens and somebody's open, they will pound your face, and you got to be efficient today.
Bus, how are you?
Which leads to shot quality.
There you go.
I think this game is going to be decided by the shot quality, what you can get. I mean, it's the kickouts for Tennessee on some of those. We talked about Boswell earlier, how well he's played.
Yeah.
But a lot of his shots are getting, or he's wide open on the kickouts from those offensive rebounds. And when he gets set, he's pretty good at that. But I think the shot quality is going to be decided in this game, which leads to tempo also. If it gets going a little bit fast, we don't want that. We want that thing to slow down. And I think that's why we've been so good. It's been kind of a half-court game a little bit. We can settle in and then hope.
Oh, well, that's another reason when you're looking at that Iowa State game, and we talked about it in the preview we did. It's like, if this game gets in the 80s, I don't see you winning. If this game, and we did the math, and it was like Tennessee 18-1, now 19-1 when they hold their opponent to 69 or fewer.
Right.
Flip that. I'm sure Michigan's the same as Iowa State. You look at what they're averaging on the season, I'm sure if they score in the 80s, they're about 20-0. So it is going to be very much a pace.
When I left here, when I got fired in 05, I went to Coastal Carolina. And a kid showed up my door over here off Weddington Creek, Mike Boynton. Mike was a grad assistant at Furman. He's now the top assistant, I believe, at Michigan, or one assistant at Michigan. I spoke to Mike probably a month and a half ago. I said, "You're joining?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Tell me about Dustin. What's he do so well?" He says, "Coach, he's very good at making adjustments, especially in the second half."
Yeah. What do you do to handle Lundeborg? How do you handle that?
He's a powerful kid. I mean, I watched him a lot 2 years ago with the Hornets because I love the body, I love the strength on a perimeter. He played a lot inside at UAB, but I did not realize he had more of the perimeter game which he can attack. And like Tyler said, if he gets going downhill and he kicks that thing out, some of these guys and knock down shots, that's not good. But he's very talented, and we got to do a good job on him.
Okay, UT, hang around. We're going to bring in another couple guys here for the next segment, and we're going to show you 10 things you have to know about this Tennessee-Michigan game. We do this during the tournament. It's like, okay, here's your opponent. How does Tennessee compare to this opponent? And actually, we'll show you how both teams compare to everybody that was in the Elite Eight. So it's everybody in the Elite Eight, and it'll allow you to see, oh, Tennessee's got the advantage here. Ooh, Michigan's got the advantage there. Come on back, we'll show you the slides. Welcome back to the Sports Source. Going to get you up to date on some comparisons here. Points per game, we talked about Michigan liking to score. Look at that. 87.5 points a game. You see Tennessee down there at 79.3. But in terms of the 8 teams that were in the Elite Eight, and clearly you could take out Purdue, they're gone. Iowa, gone. But UConn, Tennessee, Duke, and then Illinois, Arizona, and Michigan there. Michigan, the highest scoring team out of the remaining teams. Let's go to the next one. Free throw attempts per game, we talked about this earlier. Tennessee and Michigan are right there together. You get more attempts per game in terms of the differential. You don't have the big slice, as Buzz talked about. They've got a great differential. But free throw attempts per game, you're about the same on the season. All right, now let's look at the next one. Free throw percentage. Yeah, there we go. Last we talked about Iowa State. We said, okay, they shoot free throws as badly as you do. And we've talked about it in this game that, well, it helped you that they couldn't hit free throws. Michigan can hit their free throws. And unfortunately for Tennessee, of the teams remaining, and again, there's really just 6 now, but I had to make these graphics yesterday. 69%, you're the worst free throw shooting team, and unfortunately, usually that does come back to bite you at some point. Let's move on to the next slide. Offensive rebound position. Okay, there you go. We've talked about the lead Tennessee has there all year. When you're number 1 in the country, you're always going to be the best in whatever the chart I put up there is. So they're way up there. Michigan, worst.
It's an impressive gap.
Yeah, worst in terms of the remaining teams with Iowa out. So that you got to own the glass today. Next one up, blocks per game. We talked about Virginia earlier, blocked a lot of shots. Look at Michigan. Six blocks per game, 6.5, I guess that's saying. And then Tennessee right in the middle. But it's another thing to keep in mind with their bigs. They block a lot of shots. Let's take a look at bench points. Michigan tops in terms of bench points. 6 points per game more than Tennessee gets out of their bench players. Steals per game. Tennessee. They got the lead there against Michigan. So maybe the Vols can force a few steals today. They're certainly going to need to. 3-point percentage, you know where this one's going to be. Not good. Tennessee, the worst of the remaining teams. Michigan, the best of the remaining teams in terms of shooting from 3. But in those 3 losses, again, their guards went cold in those 3 games, didn't hit it, or the defenses that they went up against took them away. That's your hope if you're Tennessee. Next up, turnovers per game. Both these teams turn it over a lot. So that is not, usually we go into that and we think that's a disadvantage for Tennessee. Well, these teams are pretty equal. Michigan turns it over as often as you do. And then this last one. Okay, once again, losses when you've been up by 10. We know that Tennessee has 5. I show this simply because, if Tennessee gets up, you're still sitting there thinking, oh gosh, can we blow this? If Michigan gets up, they usually don't blow it. And obviously, you're 34-3. You're not going to have a lot of losses that you've blown in that situation. They have 1 on the year. Okay, Chuck, Josh, thoughts on Tennessee and how they can beat Michigan today?
Well, if they get up 8 or 9, I would turn it over real quick. I think Tennessee's got to continue to be good at what it's been good at. That's rebound the basketball, create opportunities for yourself. Tennessee has to take care of the basketball. Any game coach is going to say take care of the basketball, but both teams, I'm sure, in this one are saying we've got to value the basketball against what they can do against us defensively.
You look at a team like this, and unfortunately, John, I think Michigan has to help you a little bit, or you have to do something. Your 3-point defense. They had 13 threes against Alabama. I mean, if they go out and the average, what was it? I think maybe 8 a game. But if they're hitting threes, I think they're almost unbeatable because they've got such a solid inside game. But if you can take away the threes and make them play, Michigan have to try and catch you. If you dictate that, I think you got a chance.
And Josh, we were also talking about the way they shoot it also makes them like Arizona last night. They're one of those teams that, they're down 5. They're up 17.
Yeah.
They're one of those teams that can really race by you quick.
Yeah, we were talking about Tennessee taking it to Iowa State. Obviously, you got to try to take it to Michigan, but you cannot have a letdown. Tennessee had too many letdowns in the regular season. That's why they led the way in giving up big leads. You have a letdown. You have a bad 4-minute stretch against Michigan. They are going to take advantage of it.
Guys, you go back and you look at who Tennessee has played in the last 2 Elite Eights compared to this one. So 2 years ago, it was basically the one-man machine of Zach Edey. And that game turned into who's going to carry his team home, Zach Edey or Dalton Knecht. And Knecht gave it all he had, but it was a one-man team, and Tennessee was close in that. I shouldn't say a one-man team, but certainly one man dominated that Purdue team. Houston, on paper, looked a whole lot like Tennessee. Now, it turns out they played better on that
better
game.
version,
yeah, better version of Tennessee, certainly on that day. But those teams were pretty even. I go into this one, I'm more worried about Michigan than I am that Houston team last year or the Purdue team a couple of years ago. If I got that wrong, you think this Michigan team is scarier than those, or were those better than this one?
Well,
You're never scared. Players never scared here.
Never scared, but they're more concerning. Just because we've been seeing them do it all year long. They've been beating everybody. When they lose, they barely lose. And they don't look invincible, but they're definitely a high-caliber team they're still playing good at this time of year. So, yeah, I understand why you're more concerned about them, for sure.
Not scared, concerned.
What is so great about this tournament? It's just a one game. It's not the best of 5. It's not the best of 7. So anything can happen in 40 minutes now. So I think that's, who knows? But Tennessee's got to continue to do what they're doing, rebound, and they're going to have to force some turnovers in this game.
All right. When we come back, let's talk a little bit more about it. We'll get the whole group out here, everybody. We'll do what we call the super wide shot. We'll have everybody on the set, and we're going to make our predictions. We'll show you what the computers are saying about this game, and then we'll make our picks, and we may have a couple other little points to get in here. Come on back on the Sports Source. Welcome back. We're trying to talk here in between, doing a little math on the show. You got computer projections right there. Ken Pomeroy gives Tennessee, his computer says 26% chance. He's got Michigan by 7 in his system. CBB Analytics also has Tennessee, 26% chance. And then CBB Analytics, you can go through and look at the rest of the tournament and see who's got their chances. Duke, 28% chance of winning the tournament. Arizona, 27. Michigan, 21. Illinois, 19. And then you drop down, you got UConn and Tennessee, the biggest underdogs. So again, there you go, Isaiah. If you're Rick Barnes, you're showing them that. You're running and showing them that. I do want to get to predictions here, but we did come back with, let me get a little, if we can get that tight. We did come up with our own little keys. Own the glass, guard the 3, careful with your fouls, can't get in foul trouble, hit open shots, and as Buzz said, shot quality. Those are your keys for Tennessee to win this game. We got a little bit of time here before we get to our predictions, so let me ask Tyler and Chuck, there's late-breaking gambling news, supposedly. What are you hearing?
Line has now moved up a full point. There's a lot of money coming in early hours before tip that it's going to be Michigan. We've gone from a 7.5 now to an 8.5.
And it opened at 6.5, right?
Correct.
Right.
And you're now seeing the point total come down. So I don't know how you do your own math at home or what you gentlemen think here on the panel, but we're seeing one team spread go up while the total of the game is going down. So 8.5, 146.5.
How are you looking at that, Chucky C-Note?
I think that line's about right. It might even, with everything you look at what Michigan can do, it might even be a little bit low.
Wow.
Michigan has scored again, as we mentioned earlier.
I know where
90+
Chuck's
points in every
predicting.
I'll tell you what, then let's put him last. Let's, or we can get him out of the way. What are you doing, Chuck? Who wins?
Well, and another thing we haven't talked about, maybe the foul trouble. Michigan seems to be able to avoid that. I think they've been able to dictate everything. Tennessee has had its best half in the tournament so far. They played Iowa State, they're going to have their best game of the season to me. And if they can stay within striking distance, who knows? If you can put the pressure on at the end, who knows? But I think looking at this game, I think you have to pick Michigan as odds-on favorite to win it.
Okay. Josh.
Chucky Raincloud.
Yeah. So, all right, sunshine.
So we have seen Tennessee, I think, play its best basketball of the season in large stretches in this NCAA tournament. That is a big positive, but they're going to have to top that. I do take Michigan to win the game.
Oh, wow. After your rain cloud.
It's spreading,
Let's
yes.
see.
Yeah.
I
Is it
will,
my turn?
Yeah, sure. I'll skip me. Go. There you go. You're taking the Vols?
Absolutely.
Are
I see a bounce back game from J.P. Estrella. He didn't play well. I see Carey playing just as good as he played. I see Boswell making those open threes. He's going to be the one open. You're not going to leave him in open. You're not going to leave Gillespie open. I see him making those shots, and I see us playing good defense. I see us going to the Final Four, man.
All right.
I see
time
the
ever,
sun
baby.
over here. I'm going with Tennessee. I think Tennessee's got this game. I think it's the time it's going to turn. I think Rick is very deserving of it. So I
Yes, sir.
got a great feeling they're going to win this game today.
All right, so now we move past the homer zone to these. Tyler and Bob, we got to be kind of quick here.
I really want to be alive to see Tennessee reach the Final Four. I just don't think it's going to happen today. Tennessee's going to have to play a flawless basketball game and top what they did against Kentucky last year in the Sweet 16. If it was any one of these 1 seeds, that wasn't Michigan. I think Michigan wins, and I think Michigan handles Tennessee.
Okay, Bob.
Yeah, I think Tennessee, their tendency to turn the ball over
That's
is
my
what
concern.
scares me the most.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
That's my concern. They can't take care of the
okay.
basketball.
I can't hear. He can't see.
Don't forget, I can't talk either. Thanks to all these people. Look, last year, I said I did what I never do. I said, I've got a gut feeling, and I took Tennessee to beat Houston. I'm not doing that again, but I was wrong last year. Maybe I'm wrong this year.
Yeah.
Tennessee has been there. They played their 3 best games. Who's to say you don't play 4 in a row? We've seen it happen before. Good luck to the Vols. Thanks to all these guys. Thanks to our sponsors for bringing you this. Thanks to you, and we'll see you on the Saturday kickoff at 11 a.m. next week right here.